I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Education meeting of Tuesday, August 9, 2016. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for all coming tonight. We are a cooling center for people who are too hot like I am. Here we go. Anyone interested in public comment, you may comment up to 3 minutes or ask to be scheduled on a future board meeting. Any public comment? Okay, administration.
Just a couple of thank yous. I will tell you, the administrative team, we had a retreat earlier last week. It's been a busy summer, and I really appreciate all their hard work this summer to get us where we are today, and certainly the next few weeks, the next 3.5, 4 weeks are going to be extremely busy. So looking forward to that. The support staff and clerical staff that have been in all summer doing good work, getting us ready to go. And we're starting to see now that August is here, a fair enough amount of training programs, and Mr. Watch has a busy month of August with training activities for a lot of our instructional staff. So for all intents and purposes, 2016 and 17 basically has begun, so we're ready to go. And that's all I have.
Board of Education members?
I just want to thank Scott, Rex, and Janice for taking us around yesterday, showing us all the new construction they've done. They've done a lot. Impressive.
Almost like new buildings when you walk in and they're.
Yeah, we actually had a conversation about how the buildings, virtually all of our student-based buildings now will look very nice and function very well.
And they're nice and squeaky clean, too.
Yes.
That'll last a week. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? I should say there's one little typo in here. It's not Saline Policy Resource Officer, it's Police.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you all picked up on that. I just mentioned it for the record. So can I have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Support. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Scheduled reports, Food Services Department.
All right, I'll call Jim Davis up, and we'll talk a little bit about how things are going with Chartwell.
Good evening, everyone. I will let you know that Chartwell's has started with a new icon now. Chartwell's before was not the apple. Now we have the apple and the curve of a C, which obviously is Chartwell's. And then the 3 seeds are also part of that. The story of the apple. The C is really for Chartwell's. The 3 seeds really symbolize our philosophy and unveiling passion for building strong bodies, sharp minds, and establishing a foundation for long, healthy life. And we call that Eat, Learn, Live. Under the EAT symbol, we're going to talk about the middle school cafe this year. We have done a lot of work there. If you can see up in the left-hand corner, we've wrapped all the pillars, and all those pillars now have a nice icon for each of the stations on them. This is the Sono. These are some of the pizzas that we're serving now. That's a whole grain pizza that we serve at all the buildings for each of the kids. Down below that, we have the new subline at the middle school, which we put in. So we've done new equipment, we've refreshed the signs, and we've made a lot of changes there. Going to Learn, we're doing Chef to School events each year. I've had Scott out for a Chef to School event, I've had Janice out. Typically what we're doing, you can see the children there at the bottom. We're giving out samples of obviously fruits and vegetables that kids probably don't eat at home. And it gives them an opportunity to try them. And then also we give them a recipe to take home from mom. The label we are going to be using this year is called On the Go. It will actually have all the nutritional information as listed to the right there for our students to see. We also use the NutriSlice app. Prior to us coming in, parents would have to go on to the website and look up the menu. There is an application for your smartphone. So parents at any time of the day, 24/7, they can look at the menu. All they have to do is scroll to the Saline site, and it either is an elementary, high school, middle school, lunch, or dinner.
Can I ask a question about the labeling?
Mm-hmm.
Does it include allergy information as well?
It does.
Okay.
It does. And so does the NutriSlice. So a lot of parents utilize that website because their children need to have insulin and they need to know what the carbs are. So most of the nurses are in contact with me on a daily basis until they got used to it, and at this point, they love the fact that they have that at their fingertips.
Great.
Assuming extracurricular activities, this year I was asked to be involved in the Saline Foundation to do the catering for that event. We also did the Saline retirement celebration. We had a nice chocolate fountain there. And over the last year and a half, we have donated as a company to Saline $10,000 to the Culinary Arts Department. Each year it's a $5,000 donation for the duration of our 5-year contract. Opportunities this year have been to introduce new menus. All the schools have what's called Webtrition, and Webtrition has been backed by the USDA, so anytime that we have an audit from the state, all the credentials of that system are approved by the USDA of carb counts, of calories, and all the logistics that they need to look at our menus. Also kind of touch base on the new subline that we put in at the middle school. We have done 14 chef to school events this year. And then we have also worked with Special Olympics on 2 of their events. We did a track meet and then we also did a basketball. So down in the far corner, which is kind of hard to see, the Saline Police Department with a couple of the students at the basketball.
Jim, is the subline like they can make their own sandwich up, or are they all
Yeah,
pre-made?
everything is to order. So we have fresh bread that we make every day. We have sliced ham, turkey, roast beef. We have the special, all your vegetables, and the children get to ask and tell them, you know, this is what I want on my sub, this is what I don't. So it's just like Subway.
Yeah, okay.
Challenges this year, you know, growing participation has been a challenge. We did grow participation with breakfast. Lunch has been a challenge, and that's something that I will continue to work on with some new concepts at the high school. And there are the restrictions from the federal guidelines that have said everything is going back to less than 200 calories for snacks. Everything has to be whole grain. So we do have a lot of challenges to present and to overcome, which we'll continue each year to work with. We have a great staff, but it is a tough labor market here. I mean, some parents in Saline don't really need to have a job. So we've done a lot of good interviews this week. I've talked to 3 ladies that have children that are in the schools that are interested in coming to join us. We had 5 people retire, so it was a huge turnover. Concessions we took over this year, and the previous year it was 102,000. This year it was 138, which was an increase of almost $36,000. Projection for this year, we're looking for $150,000 to $160,000 in concession sales. That will be contributed to the fact that it will be doing a Presto app. A Presto app is a system that we'll use on an iPad, and at the football game I'll actually be able to have a credit card. This year we'll pilot it with 1 window until we get all the bugs worked out, and then maybe the following year we can have all windows set up on the same system. We've worked with the student groups to increase opportunities for growth. The year before there were some student groups that just didn't have the opportunity to work with us. Goals coming up this year, increase breakfast and lunch participation by 3%. Do 15 chef to school events. I will work with an advisory committee at each of the schools to kind of give the students a voice and say, you know, this is your program. What do you want to see? What do you want me to bring to it? Theme days at the elementary schools, I'm going to work with athletics and see if I can get, you know, the star football player to come in and serve the kids lunch. Talk to the police department. Maybe we can get the police department to come in and rotate from school to school throughout the year. Local grown pilot we're going to be doing through the USDA. So this year with the USDA we'll get locally grown produce at a reduced price of $1.56 for a delivery fee. And that's the only charge that we actually get. We don't pay the $40 for the apple, we just pay the delivery fee. So that will be a great opportunity for our program, and I'm looking to pilot a new adult menu. I'll start with Heritage as a starting point, work with that school, see how it goes, work out the kinks, and then offer it to the rest of the teachers.
Is there a reason why you chose Heritage? I'm just curious.
I have my strongest culinary person there,
Okay.
which is Heather Shar.
I just thought they were more adult-like than any other building.
No,
You have to
as a matter of fact,
You have
no.
to pick the right team, because it's basically, the teacher's gonna pre-order and the day before, and then we're gonna get the stuff ready the day of, and then it's gonna have to be delivered. So there's the logistics of getting that picked up and then being able to move it around the district.
Sounds good.
All right? Thank you. everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. Our next report is the summer online learning presentation. Mr. Lodge.
He'll be doing the briefing.
Oh.
I asked earlier this summer, earlier this summer, I spoke to Ms. Melcher. We talked a little bit about what the summer looked like related to the online offerings. And it's a program that Carol's had really the last several years, and it's continued to grow and evolve. And I thought it's really at a point where I'm not sure how many people within our community, particularly at the board level, know what we're doing and how successful it's been. So it's an opportunity for us to talk a little bit about that and share some more information. So on that note, Ms.
Thank you,
Melcher.
Mr. Graydon. I'm happy to speak with you this evening about the summer online program that we have been running for several years now. It continues to grow, almost to the point where we need more than need. I've handed you a packet of information that's really detailed. I want to go through this pretty quickly just to give you an overview of what the program is and why we run it, because there's a little thing going on down in Rio. I gotta get home. So anyway, here's the purpose of the program. Saline Area Schools, in collaboration with Saline Community Ed, provides students throughout the district and throughout Washtenaw County with online coursework throughout the summer for a variety of reasons. Credit recovery, there are students that don't pass classes at the high school, need to make up that credit so they don't have to take it again in their next year's schedule. Consortium scheduling is really difficult. It takes up big blocks of time in a student's schedule. So if they can take an online class during the summer, then they have more flexibility to fit in one of those consortium classes. Level advancement, I have several students this summer taking geometry because God forbid they didn't take geometry at the high school. They have to start ninth grade with Algebra 2. This is Saline. So they're taking geometry. Personal enrichment, we have students this summer taking classes like oceanography. We don't offer that at the high school, but it's just a course that the student wanted to take. And scheduling, especially for freshmen, is very problematic. This is a typical freshman schedule. Student coming out of the middle school who is interested in band, orchestra, or choir, that takes up 3 blocks of time. And then a student coming out of middle school is probably taken Spanish or another world language. That takes up 2 blocks. The math class will take up 2 additional blocks. World history is a freshman requirement, takes 2 more blocks. PE takes 2. Biology or another science takes 2. And all of a sudden, and English as well, you have a full schedule and you don't have room for health. That's also a 9th grade requirement. So this summer we have 43 students taking health online because of this problem. So the process for enrolling in a summer online class looks like this. We ask the students first to speak with their guidance counselor at the high school or at the middle school to determine whether or not the coursework is appropriate. Are they academically prepared? Are they self-starters? Can they work individually? Parent approval is required, application and payment, expectations are laid out in an email that comes from me, and those are in your packet. They then enroll, and I send them an email confirmation saying, here's your login information. If you have any questions or concerns, please get with me. And there's a parent cover letter that you have a copy of in your packet as well. Students that complete online coursework, we treat those grades as though they were a transfer credit. In other words, if a student comes to us from California, we accept those credits, but we don't award the grade toward their GPA. Online courses are treated the same way. So you get the credit, the A shows up or whatever grade you earn, but it isn't factored into your overall GPA. So it's just kind of a credit achievement moving forward. Reason being, logic there is, we don't think there's any better teachers than what we can provide at Saline High School. So the credits there that they earn do count toward their overall GPA. We offer pacing assistance, we offer deadlines. I'm emailing students and parents continuously through the summer. You're off track for time of completion, please step up, make sure that you know that this is the deadline. We offer, during the summer, a variety of vendors. The two typical ones that I'm going to show you about tonight are Michigan Virtual High School and Edgenuity. Michigan Virtual has their own calendar. All of those classes must be finished by midnight on 8/12. That's coming up pretty quickly. So I'm reminding those students, here's where you are, you're only 80% finished, you know midnight is the deadline, there are no extensions in the summer. We also offer summer labs at Liberty. What we find with online learning is that students sometimes need FaceTime. It might just be a quiet place to work. Summertime sounds like a great time to get ahead and take an online class, and oh boy, this is going to be easy and I'm going to be able to get ahead, and then all of a sudden they fall flat on their face because I gotta play with the dog, or something else comes up. So we offer labs here at Liberty Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 10 until noon. Students can come in, there's 2 hours of, you're not doing anything except your online coursework. There's tutoring available if they need it as well. Usually it's technology or technological assistance that they need. We have pretty smart kids in Saline. Don't know if you knew that. But we do offer tutorials if they need it. So here's what have enrolled this summer. The courses that students are taking, a variety of classes. Algebra 1, 2, pre-algebra, biology, career planning and development. There you see the 43 students enrolled in Michigan Health. Medical terminology is another popular class. I was happy to see a lot of kids taking computer science this summer. Geometry, there you go, 12. And most of them are rising freshmen. Grade level interest, students enrolled from all different grade levels. We have a 6th grader taking Spanish, another 6th grader taking pre-algebra because she wants to take algebra in 7th grade. Most of those 8th graders are taking health. When you see the numbers rising in 8th or 9th and 10th grade, it's usually because there's students that start failing classes in those grades, and they like to make up those during the summer. So here's what it does for the district in terms of money generated. We have sold, if you will, 143 Edgenuity classes at $150 per course. That's $150 per half credit. So $21,450 generated this summer through selling the Edgenuity courses. Michigan Virtual is kind of a wash. They charge us through the consortium $299. We charge families $325 just for processing. So net gain there is not much. Our summer profit this year will be $21,606.
Is there much difference between the Edgenuity and the Michigan Virtual High School?
No, that's a very good question. There really isn't in terms of curriculum. Both are aligned with the Common Core state standards. The difference being Michigan Virtual has a real live teacher. The curriculum there is sometimes skewed onto what that teacher specifically wants to teach. We have some students who are rather elite athletes and will pursue or maybe offered scholarships at the Division I level, so they have to be NCAA approved courses. Most of Michigan Virtual's classes are NCAA approved. So that's the reason why we have a few. This summer we only have 6 students taking Michigan Virtual classes. 140 some taking Edgenuity. I think this testimony from one parent kind of sums up the reason why we do what we do. Speaking about her daughter, she did enjoy this online format. She worked through the course at her own pace, and she liked the fact that she could stop, continue, replay the videos as needed. This online summer program is a great option for students who can't fit all the requirements into their schedule. Questions?
How many years is this?
I think this is year 4.
4. And I'm assuming our enrollment has been
Every year it
steadily
gets-
building.
Yeah. Every year we have more students.
And I don't know how much we've really pushed it even in a sense. I think it's kind of been, I don't think word of mouth. I mean, people are aware of it, but it certainly hasn't been something that we've thought out and recruited. My sense is that we could grow it if we really were more
We
aggressive.
could. It is posted on the websites, both at middle and high school. Right after spring break, I send out the application for summer enrollment. And there are people in March that start calling.
Roughly, what is the kind of the completion rate in terms of, I think one of the things, and Carol talked a little bit about it, is one of the unique features of doing online through us is that we do provide lab time. Carol's involved with kind of managing them from the back end. And we talk about our students who are going to be faced with online learning environments as they progress through school. I think this is a natural transition because there's the accountability of the courses operating. I will tell you that Mrs. Alter is watching their progression and communicating effectively with them and directly if they get off course. And so I think that helps with our completion rates. But
Right. I think we'll have 2 students that won't finish this summer. We usually have 100% of the students that finish.
That's great.
How do colleges, you have dealt with college admissions, how do they view this?
I can give you an example of a student who was 100% online last year for her senior year. She was a full-time seat-time waiver student. She had that same question, so we contacted University of Michigan. How do you view this? She was a top-notch student, did very well on her ACTs, and had maintained a 4-point average. Did the same with her online coursework. I contacted University of Michigan, and they said there shouldn't be a problem as long as the courses are accredited and you're taking them through a vendor that's one that we would approve. So she is freshman at U of M. Doing very well. So I think really colleges look at an online course. In fact, the state requires an online option. As part of the Michigan Merit Curriculum, you have to take an online course. We kind of substitute that with technology courses at high school and call that their online learning experience, but the state does say online learning experience. And colleges look for that. I think most every student who goes to college now will have some sort of online learning experience in their 4 years of college. So it's a good place to get their feet wet.
So if we decided to grow the program, could we, the price could go down, or is it? I know there's a little profit here, but.
Yeah, when we say profit, I would say there's a lot of time that goes in it. And yes, Carol, as an administrator, loves doing all this for her same salary. But I think if we look to grow the program, we'd want to put some structure around it that would have costs associated with it, from a management standpoint. Because I think it is important that we don't just simply say, here's an online experience, we'll check in with you on the 12th. It's about transitioning them from typically that 5-day-a-week face-to-face to an online environment with supports. And so that's with supports means there's going to be some costs associated with it.
So with the GPA, so some of the students taking them up there because they didn't pass a class. So that, obviously they had a bad grade, that affects their GPA. And they take this and it doesn't affect their GPA. How does that work?
It's just a wash. So the grade, let's say they took physical science B and didn't pass it, so they would have an E on their transcript, and yes, that's factored in as a 0. They take the summer online physical science B, they replace it with credit.
You replace it with credit. So the E goes away.
The E goes.
No,
Yeah.
you
The
say.
E stays there, it doesn't
Yeah.
replace the existing course.
So it's almost, if it would be a period, you earn the credit but fail the class,
Correct.
which is possible in another way too, but it gets complicated.
It's new math.
Yeah, it gets more complicated based on attendance. But.
It's fun. I mean, a variety of experiences from different students. Some of them email me 2 and 3 times a day. Some I don't hear from all summer. There's very different types of students, like we have in the classroom.
So you get selfies from the pool side of their laptops.
Pretty much.
From the course. Like,
Yeah, I don't need to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
action items. Can I have a motion to approve the appointment of Emily Sickler to the position of middle school assistant principal effective August 1st, 2016, as recommended by Superintendent Graydon?
Support.
All right, Emily, if you want to come up and say things. Emily is a relatively long-time Saline School employee who has really transitioned from being a classroom teacher and watched her grow over the last several years in terms of really starting to continuing to expand her leadership capabilities. She really took off with Reader Apprenticeship several years ago and has continued to be a leader. And I will tell you, at Harvest Elementary, and watching most recently, as she transitioned into this new role, really developed a strong retreat for their staff. She was a natural fit for our middle school program. Emily, you want to tell a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be Saline Middle School's assistant principal. I was doing the math, and 31 years I've had first day of school experiences, and 27 of them I've walked into a Saline Area Schools building. Now, some of those buildings are now gone, or we don't use anymore, but I could not be more excited for it to be number 28 on September 6th. I'm really excited to form relationships with the families and the staff and the students at Saline Middle School. I'm especially excited to work with Brad and the rest of the Saline Middle School staff, just to ensure that we're doing the best possible thing for our earliest adolescents, so socially, emotionally, and academically. And I think we can work really hard on that. And so I thank Scott and the rest of the admin team for offering me this opportunity.
Thank you.
We may have to rename it the Rock and Roll Middle School, knowing
Yeah,
their
this is
two,
going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting.
the attitude that comes out of both of those, it could be fun.
Should be very. Kids will have a good time, I will tell you that.
Proper learning environment.
Yes.
Any other questions? No. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Congratulations, Emily.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adopt the updated strategic framework as presented on June 28th, 2016?
So moved. Second.
Just wanted to tell you, it was included in your packet. I just, as you recall, at the last meeting, we went over the revised framework. We went from 4 goals several years ago, added a 5th goal, and then now have condensed back down to 4. As you recall, we really combined goal 1 and goal 2 to make really a comprehensive instructional goal. We found that map, roadmap for us is leading us to a lot of interesting conversations that are really forcing us to really talk about our teaching and learning environments and focusing on that this year with the coming school year. So I'd like the board to kind of formally adopt the revised strategic framework. We'll be printing some information with this on it, and then certainly transitioning into discussing something that is very Compass-like, but I don't want to tell you too much about yet. So there's some exciting news coming out of that.
Something you did on the retreat?
Yeah, well, it's something we did we started on retreat and we did some more today. We're pretty excited about how we're transitioning from this strategic framework as an overarching umbrella and really focusing in, again, on that goal 1 piece.
Any questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the technology purchases for next generation classrooms and staff lounges in the amount of $273,821.89 as submitted by Assistant Superintendent Warner?
So
Support.
So these purchases, I think this is the 4th request for technology from the bond funds. And these are for the next generation classrooms coming on board this year, and also for district office staff refreshments, and then to have some additional laptops for new staff that we're hiring. Typically the older laptops go into service in other areas where they're not as heavily used.
How many new next gen classrooms are we having this year?
47?
For the upcoming year, yeah, we already had, so getting closer to 100.
Yeah.
Total of 100.
Yeah.
So it's about what, 50-50 then? More or less?
A third. One, and part kind of that you're kind of dovetailing into something. We're really talking about really heading to scale with Bowman, and in some ways, this may be one of the last times that we talk about next gen as we kind of retire the next gen and really talk about the next phase or the evolution of that transition in terms of where we're going. But these are key technology devices that allow us to continue that progression.
So next gen becomes the standard, and then next gen is on the drawing board.
We started with next gen. We've tried to come up with some new names as well.
And 2G.
Yeah.
Right. Any other questions about the technology? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Can I have a motion to approve the cultural arts equipment purchases in the amount not to exceed $127,723.45 and the radio purchases in the amount of $6,302.50 as submitted by Assistant Superintendent Warner?
So moved.
Support.
So these are also bond purchases. We had put out bids for digital sound system and projector system for cultural arts, and Rebecca Creep Driscoll and the technology department are still kind of working through them. So we didn't have an award for tonight, but she doesn't want to wait too long. We'd like to, once it's awarded, we'd like to get them in place and hopefully have them in place by the beginning of school. So that's why we went this route. And then the radios we had already approved radios a few weeks ago. These are additional radios for the buildings and ground staff so that they can communicate in emergency situations and also for district-wide events like graduation, field days, things like that.
On the cultural arts piece, the soundboard and the projectors that are in those spaces are ones that were purchased with the new Project 2000. So when you think about the changes in technology related to those, particularly the Commons projector, certainly groups almost are reluctant to use that now, and what was just an incredible image throw at the projector at the auditorium in 2000 is now seen as, oh my goodness, what is that? So we're excited about getting those new projectors in as well.
I know the failure before schools were on.
Yeah, that was the straw.
Scurrying about.
We can't have that. And ultimately, the projector that we brought in was one from the Northridge Church. So the projector that we used was not even one that we owned in the school district. So we appreciate it.
So are we going to keep this one as a backup, or?
I don't think that we can keep. No, I don't know that it has any value. Residual value.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Discussion items, the school climate results. Superintendent Green.
All right, I have what is a 43-slide presentation. Now, that's the thing for you to understand. And you have now that all of those slides in your hand, which allows me to not have to go through all of those slides here tonight. I will stand up to go through this. I'm going to focus just on really the first couple slides and then the last few slides. First, if you recall, this is the climate survey that went district-wide between April 12th and May through May the 5th. And again, this is similar to the climate survey that we've done the last several years. This one was tweaked a little bit and was one that was given to districts across the country who are K-12 Insight clients. And so later this year, in September, October, we will be able to get some information and look at benchmarking. This is one of the reasons we transitioned to this, is because we wanted to be able to determine what do our numbers look like relative to other districts, other like districts, so that we can, again, start to see what that means. As far as who filled out the survey, parents were 50-50 between elementary and secondary. You can see staff, the breakdown of staff, how they went about that. Overall perceptions of school quality, and really this is probably the key metric for us in terms of trying to think what are the perceptions of our school district. And if you look at it, certainly from a parent standpoint, we had over 1,500 parents fill out the survey, that well over 90%, almost 96% feel that the school is either excellent or good. And again, you see the staff numbers there in terms of, again, everyone's in that 90% range in terms of 9 out of 10 folks that filled this out. Again, have a pretty strong opinion that our schools are doing very, very well. And then if you break that down into the other areas, and these are the areas of focus. So I'm not going to go through each of these areas in the slide. I'm going to kind of jump to the end and look at some of the highs and the lows. But if you look at where things go in terms of academic support, again, the blue line, the green line are parents, the blue line is staff, and the yellow line are students. And so on the black and white version, if you want to look at that at a later time, just kind of remember that those are the numbers. And again, if you look at where our numbers are at, they're strong in academic support, strong in student support. However, there's some school leadership is an area we want to continue to focus on. Family engagement is a piece, safety and behavior, and we'll talk a little bit about school operations towards the end. On that note, I am going to blaze through this, but I would encourage you to take an opportunity to review this presentation. I will upload this onto our website as well. If we get towards the end here, we have some specific areas related to busing and transportation. We want to start to get some feedback in terms of why are people riding, how many students are riding, want to get some feedback on that. The areas of highest ranking indicator for parents. My child's school is clean. 97% of the parents feel that our schools are well clean. So Mr. Clary's staff, that's a good number for them to really know about and think about. Students have access to technology. They're encouraged to attend events, offer a variety of activities and courses. When you think about the number of opportunities that we provide, again, the rankings from parents indicate that they feel that there's a fair amount of student support in those areas. And then again, that the facilities are well maintained. Staff, highest ranking indicators, they feel good about themselves. High quality teachers. 96% feel there's high quality teachers, that staff members that students can go to, that staff members are aware of the safety and security procedures. And so as we head into August, we talked a lot about our training. We have a lot of safety and security training that's going to be here. We want to make sure that number remains high. Transportation. Again, the school bus service, that our own staff feels very positive about our school bus service and transportation. And that they have learning standards for all students. Again, that we have a curriculum that's robust in pushing students. At students' highest ranking, things access to the internet to, at home to do my schoolwork. One of the questions we often get, okay, you're doing all this stuff online, and we're expecting them to have devices. Do they have access at home? The reality is, of the students, 94% felt like this, they have access to computers and the internet at home to do their work. High standards, they agree. We have high standards for our students. And again, that culture of high expectations for students and staff is really critical for our success. Talks a little bit more about access at school. Interestingly, 91% access to school. You'll see some other data about that, but you think about our technology department, then staff member. One of the things and key indicators from a safety and the social emotional standpoint is, do they feel like they have an adult that cares about them at school? There's a lot of research around that, and 90% of the students who filled this out did feel that way. And then online and learning resources. Do they have the resources necessary? Again, 9 out of 10 students filling out agree with that. So lowest ranking, and it's interesting, you know, the Chartwell's presentation, you can see our rankings around healthy food. Our parents don't feel that the food is healthy, and Jim and I have had that conversation. It's really a process of educating them what are the types of foods we have, and you can see the marketing push that they put on to say, hey, we need to change that number. They need to know that we're serving healthy foods, and so the focus on NutriSlice and the focus on providing nutritional information related to the foods that we are serving is critical. And again, that's a way for us to use this survey effectively in that regard. Timely and helpful feedback about student work. And that can be a point of emphasis for us as we talk to our building leaders, our principals. Parents want their students to get effective feedback. And I think as we talk about as adults and adult learners, we want feedback. And so this is an area for us to focus on in terms of whether it be how we use Power School. The returning of tests is always something that people want to know. When can I get my test back so I can see what I got wrong? And so that feedback piece. Students receive the academic support and career planning. The career planning question appears on the entire survey, and I think that's a little bit of a misnomer. 50% of the parents filling the survey out students are at elementary. We don't talk a lot about career planning at the elementary level, so we want to. This is one of the questions that I wanted to take out. I said I don't know that it's really that applicable. We can just have it a secondary. This is one given across the country, so we left it in there so we can benchmark that, just see where that plays out. The relevance issue, when teachers successfully show students how lessons relate to life outside of school. One of the things is we talk about whether it be next generation or the skills necessary to be successful, we do need to find ways to make, we call them now either authentic or real world experiences, but it's clear that our parents feel we need to find the ways to make sure we're drawing connections to what we're doing in school, how is that going to be applicable to our students as they transition into the kind of outside world. And then we use family to help us improve instruction. We're going to continue to figure out what are ways we can bring families in to get feedback from them related to that.
Hey, I'm sorry. I was just wondering, were there comments on some of these so we can kind of get an idea of where these lower scores come from?
Yeah, I can pull some of the verbatims. There are not as many, and I will tell you, the survey was fairly long, so there's not a lot of comments except in a couple of key areas where they asked for them. So it's not all of these did not have comment areas for them. So there's kind of a collective comment area for maybe a collection of questions.
Well, I was just wondering if there was a common theme that, they didn't like, feedback about something and then something they'd like to see and get input from them that way, so.
Okay, I will go back and review. I don't recall there being something specific that could go to, but, so the staff, remember, the parents and felt like, hey, these schools are well equipped. Staff doesn't feel that the same way. That was one of the lowest rankings, 25%. And again, when you factor in, 75% feel fairly good about it, so I don't want to get crazy. But one of the areas we need to, are the facilities well maintained, heating, adequate lighting, well-kept grounds? I will say, I'd like to hopefully see this number jump. We've invested about $14 million in this issue this summer, so I'm hopeful that number moves a little bit. But again, we need to make sure that our buildings are appropriate for learning. Central office supportive schools, that's something that, as a central office, how do we go about supporting our schools? What's the appropriate way? I will tell you that the principals that are sitting in this room don't want me necessarily day-to-day in there supporting the schools. I want to work through them and follow that chain and allow them to be building leaders, but there are some things we can do. How can I be visible in those buildings and let the staff know that they are supported from central office on down? Maybe if Janice said yes to those reimbursement requests, those are the things we that would improve that number. Maintenance, again, this is maintenance. Discipline is enforced fairly. That's a conversation that we've had at the administrative level of how can we make sure people understand how we enforce discipline across the district. And then availability of technology resources. Again, 20% is a relatively low number, but again, it's something we need to consider to work on. Students, that student number, 56% says, do teachers successfully show how lessons relate to out of school life? That connection between the world that I live in and the work that I'm doing in school, and how can we better blend those two is critical. And you can continue to see that theme in some of the conversations that we'll have about teaching and learning. How can it be authentic? How can it be real world? How can we tie what we're doing in school to relevant life experiences to increase motivation and student engagement? We want to be lifelong learners. Let's not make school something very different than their life itself. And then high quality food. Food came up again. Discipline is an issue. Timely feedback. And treated fairly. Students at this school are treated fairly regardless of race, religion, culture, sexual orientation. Again, what types of social emotional environments are we providing for our students, and how can we best train our staff to be cognizant of this issue and make sure that we're providing an appropriate environment. And to that end, we do have some training going on the first day of school, again, to specifically address this area, because that's an area of concern for us. Again, some of the key insights, overwhelmingly, the staff, students, and parents feel like the environment that they're in, the school that they're in, are of high quality, and I think that's something that we should be very proud of and continue to focus on making sure, how do we make sure that we continue to get the feedback in the areas that are maybe a little bit lower to continue to improve in that model. And again, you can see in some of the other areas about the safety and behavior dimensions, we need to make sure that we're communicating effectively what are those protocols, and certainly some of the changes we've made, even from a structural standpoint and from a facility standpoint this year, can have an impact on those numbers. So again, you have a lot more data in front of you. I don't need to go through it all, but I encourage you to take a look at that. If you have questions for me, I certainly can share with Paul. I'll do some more research on that. And ultimately, I will communicate out once we get the kind of that benchmark piece to look how did these numbers compare to other districts who took the same survey, again, across the country. I think that'd be really interesting data that we've wanted for a long time and haven't had. So, questions?
When are they gonna have that available?
It sounded like September or October of this year. All right, great, thank you.
Bond update. Bond update.
Well, I guess any questions from last night? We'll start there. It's just us. We did send out, Janice sent out the actual Clark Construction official bond update today. We did have, we met today and talked a little bit about where we're at for 2016. So I guess if there are any questions from last night, I'll answer those and then I'll finish my update.
So they're gonna be done.
Well, that was, that was.
Rack stop.
Yeah,
like that. I don't like that.
Well, it was interesting. A week or so ago, we had a conversation, and the first time they started using the term substantial completion, we backed away from that, and we just said done is done. And so we had our discussion today with Nick Kinney. I know Rex, I think at Monday is having a move-in meeting with Stevens, and as well as the Clark folks to really lay that out. You know, we're a couple of equipment issues that we're working through to make sure the equipment, you know, we've nailed down kind of our timelines associated with furniture are fairly tight. This largely office furniture in the redesigned offices. So in theory, you know, is that, can we make do depending on how those come in? If they for some reason aren't out of the factory on time, we probably can, but those are those are the types of things we're now kind of wrapping up. But I can tell you that right now we're on schedule with all the projects, under budget and ready to get them done. So
We don't need a community painting party.
we don't need community painting, but we are. If you saw, the NHS is doing a community. Let's help you move in. I think
Yeah.
Pleasant Ridge is the room that, or the building that is going to be most in need of kind of reassemble, and so that'll be an area. I would not, again, if you're a Saline school staff member, I would encourage you not to go away this Labor Day weekend and be available to kind of pitch in. So, but any other questions about the next piece would be the conversation today turned from 2016 to 2017. So we had a meeting last week talking about summer 2017 work, which would really encompass secure vestibule both at the high school and here, really incorporating that as well as work here at alternative school. And then again, it's more at the high school. Middle school will receive the media center area, and several lighting projects at the middle school will be undertaken next summer. But we're much further ahead. We did some schematic planning and scope planning. We frankly have kind of trimmed some things down. There are some aspects that we want to manage during the school year to again continue to kind of manage our costs effectively. And then looking at next week and having a meeting to really program what we will do to Liberty School. I will tell you that right now there's a question moving forward based on how enrollment's going well. We're about 315, pushing to 330 kindergartners. As this enrollment stabilizes, we need to think about potential programs that may be bumped out of existing elementaries in here. And so that conversation is going on right now as to if we were to think about that in the context of the investments we're going to be making in this building, how do we kind of play that out? So those are the conversations that are taking place right now. And really, you can almost feel it. We're really talking more about 2017 summer than we are 2016 summer.
Weren't we doing work on the drive by the high school? What's that right?
Yep, the Campus Parkway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be summer of next summer's work. We have a couple different approaches right there. Right now, within the bond is we've got some site work laid out relative to parking lot replacements. Mr. Clary and I met with 2 actual traffic consulting firms. We're certainly happy with the work that King Scott did over there. We feel like because of the type of road that is, we wanted to kind of work with potentially people who have long-standing relationships with Washtenaw County Road Commission, as well as a lot of in-depth experience with traffic studies versus just site layout. And so Wade Trim is an organization. We received their proposal yesterday and are reviewing that. And then Fishback is the one. It's the trucks you see uptown right now that are monitoring the Michigan Avenue work. So again, we've got a proposal for them. And what they would do is really look at that site this fall to determine. Our concern is, as we talked to the Washtenaw Road Commission about saying we want to add a turn lane, they said that's great, however turn lanes aren't always effective. There may be other less costly opportunities to adjust it.
Do not say the word
roundabout. No, we're not adding any roundabouts.
So we're not having trouble getting construction companies to bid on that considering summer and road construction in Michigan is...
We didn't on this one. I mean, I wouldn't say we didn't have a lot of bids, but we're able to get bids. For example, if you were to say, are you going to work with Saline area schools or the city of Ann Arbor? We're the preferred.
Okay.
So.
But we'll probably have that done by early winter, right, to get it out?
Yeah, our plan is to take stuff to bid in January, and early January, so that we can get some of that back right away. But to further talk about that site, the discussion on that site is going to get complex and likely involve some version of phasing, because ultimately we really need to think about how that site, not only what are the impacts in front of the school relative to that turn lane or the stacking of traffic, there's the issue of what happens on the corner of Campus Parkway and Industrial Drive at various points in the day. There's discussion of what are we talking about relative to that parking lot. It's currently a gravel lot largely for soccer, but has become kind of an overflow lot if we were to look at some lighting issues. And so what I'm anticipating is out of the folks that we engage in their services relative to the traffic study, that there'll be a phased approach. And so what happens next year may just be phase 1, and then you look at it as 2 or 3 or 4 year phase. And there may be things that we want to do there we may not have the resources for, but we kind of lay out that plan. And as funds become available, whether it be through capital planning, we can attack some of the other safety and traffic issues out there.
Comments? I have to say, after seeing everything yesterday, I think everyone did a really great job in blending aesthetics, budget, you know, choice of materials and everything. I think everything looks really, really, really good.
Are you publicly on the record as supporting the yellow paint at Plus Works?
I love it. I thought it was
Okay,
sharp.
good.
Anything that's close to yours in blue is great.
Yeah, Paul, you
Yeah, I really
yeah,
liked
yeah.
it with the carpet. It looked
Yeah.
really nice.
It does look nice, yeah.
I mean, the mall was tough to get over.
I think it looks great. So congratulations to everyone involved and everyone at open house will see a complete package.
Yeah.
Yes, good. The Saline Police Resource Officer is our next discussion item.
I was at the city council meeting last night, and we've been having ongoing conversations, really for a couple of years, related to the presence of a Saline police officer, really designated to our district, related to City of Saline facilities, so this entire campus area of Pleasant Ridge. And it's a situation we've engaged in out in Pittsfield, and we've seen the benefits from it. Chief Rennick has been talking about it, we've been talking about it, and wanting to maybe look at what would their cost be if we were to engage in the services of a full-time, or at least full-time school year, police officer that would be present in this building and the middle school largely, as well as providing team and or other ancillary support to the other buildings. Having the presence of the security officer around the facilities, having the presence of a Saline police vehicle in and around our buildings at various times, that we feel like it would be an added layer of security. In addition to that, an engagement piece with our students. It would be a different type of engagement than we like to see out of Pittsfield. The ages of our students here are much younger. The types of environments that we can create related to that kind of community policing is different. So I just wanted to bring it up and get any feedback from this group as I wanted to continue conversations with Chief Rennick about whether or not that will be an issue. The concern that the Saline Police Department have is they are not of the same scale or size as Pittsfield. So if an officer is pulled from their ranks in order to serve in this role, it changes their workflow, and they would actually need to add an officer to backfill, where Pittsfield can kind of ebb and flow with the school year and backfill. So there's some logistical issues on their end, which if we were to say we wanted to do this, it would mean an extended period of time between the decision point and a potential start date. But so we want to start the conversation now.
So they're talking 100% during the school year on campus.
On campus, yep. It would be, the officer would be, and I will be frank in terms of, it would be Officer Ridge. He's the most senior member of the staff. He's very interested in a position like this, and at this point is uniquely suited to it as well.
So this was their idea, they came to us, or we went to them with this?
We've talked back and forth about whether or not this is something we would want to do, really since we had the Pittsfield scenario at this point 5 years ago. So I don't know that they said, were we interested, and we said we would want to talk further.
Why this building specifically? This one and the middle school, you said?
Largely this one in the middle school. The alternative program is here with
Okay.
high school students, and then the middle school. In terms of what I would call police calls to buildings, these two would be the ones that they spend the most time in. So from a general presence standpoint, having a large presence on this campus, but also Pleasant Ridge as well.
I personally think it's long overdue. I think it's something we've needed, not just for the safety, but just prevention. Just having them in the school, I think would alleviate some issues. I'm sure Mr. Rath could talk about the middle school, and I think it would be really helpful. Plus, it's Mr. Wrench or Officer Dave. The kids already know him.
Right.
I think that's helpful. They probably would talk to him if there's problems. So I think it's a great idea, at least to keep the conversation going.
Right.
So
What, I know we've changed DARE to the teen programs. What grades we do that in fifth?
they can run the whole, unlike DARE, which was focused on that 5th grade level, they have lessons that run really from K through 6, but certainly K through 8. And again, the lessons for a teen aren't just really about substance abuse prevention. They kind of talk about general social emotional wellness, social emotional health type aspects in terms of really understanding not only how to say no, but ultimately respect, responsibility, taking responsible for one's own actions.
Kind of lead time do they think they need?
So let's say we were to say the board wants to just truncate this process and vote yes tonight. It probably wouldn't be until January because it would take them a while. They would have to bring an officer, go through a hiring process and go through the training process and get them ready to go on the road before they'd be able to kind of give us an officer. And that's one of the, I don't say the downsides, but that's one of the issues as it relates to a smaller department.
So there would be a cost to the district.
There would, yeah, they would want us to cover, now, to be frank, at the city council meeting last night, they were interested in us covering essentially the full freight while they're here, which may be a little bit different than Pittsfield. The one conversation that we talked about, though, wouldn't be necessarily the full freight of the officer that would be here. Obviously, Dave's one of the most senior officers, but it would be the cost of an officer. So it would be a lower cost, but it would be kind of, we would be covering the backfill. So there would be a net one-to-one flat, but we wouldn't be charged the higher rate. It would be anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000. Our current agreement with Pittsfield calls for about $50,000. They would come with a car. I asked, we want them to have access to a Saline police vehicle. They would park on site. They would use that car while on site. So it would be the officer and the vehicle during those times.
I personally think it would be money well spent. I mean, I agree with Chief that it's, I think, a good idea.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So, yeah, I
Continue,
mean,
we'll-
I guess continue the
Definitely
conversation.
continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
And our last discussion item is the communication position update.
Just wanted to touch base, and Mr. Lodge can jump in here as well. We had talked at various points about a communication piece. As you know, one of the issues that we've really focused on is what does our communication plan look like? The reality is we don't necessarily have a defined communications plan. So we've kind of gone round and round about what it could look like. We've got an allocation in the budget, as you recall, related to this issue. Mr. Lodge and I attended the National School Public Relations Association Conference in Chicago a couple of weeks ago and tried to evaluate what are the models out there for folks and what are the types of activities that they take on as it relates to school communication. And Steve, I don't know if you want to jump in with any of the things we talked about in terms of learning, but I wanted to just kind of share. I've also just passed around the copy of the job description and posting that Tecumseh did related to this.
I would say that, we don't know what we don't have, but because we haven't had a communications person for so long, but when you go to a conference like the one we did in Chicago, went to in Chicago, you realize that what this would bring to the table is significant. They really promote the district in a whole new level that we're not used to. Sure, we send out news and notes and Twitter, but this is a different level of communications to the community. They brand a vision. They really promote a school district in a different light, and more so than we ever could with our existing resources. They also develop a better communication plan for emergencies. There's a safety aspect there that we need to consider, and for a district our size, most districts this size all have a person like this, so I really think it would be advantageous for the district. And we'd be excited about the possibility because it's exciting to work with somebody that could promote it in that way. Whereas now, we cobble it together the best we can, but it's taking away from us doing other things in the process.
So one of the things that, as we go through, I have a little schematic, and I didn't share it because it's really rough draft, but essentially looking at it as kind of an external piece and into media, community relations, potentially fundraising. When I say fundraising, really coordinating special events, and then ultimately to bond and village campaigns. Certainly we want them involved in that. And potentially a branding, kind of aligning the communications plan associated with some of the things we talked about. Our strategic framework is something that, while we do it, and Steve and I are invested in the process of the framework, the communication of the framework becomes another step that frankly often gets lost as we continue to focus on that itself. And then also as it relates to the digital piece in terms of our website and other communication, there's a social media component. Internally, I think one of the things we picked up on at the conference is really how are we focused in terms of our communication internally. And we've been a couple of conversations. In fact, Emily had one earlier today about how are we going about communicating even who are the new administrators in each of the building, what are the aspects, communication issues associated with our framework internally, so they can really be our best communication partners, would be our staff to go out and talk about what's going on as a district. You look at some of the survey data and some of the inconsistencies between different groups. Are there ways for us to look at that data and focus our communicational message internally? And so kind of the internal, external, and then certainly from a promotion standpoint and from a generic and general information standpoint and then a crisis management standpoint. It's a very interesting position or service, and so we're trying to figure out how we go about putting it together.
Can I know you and I had conversations before too, and I think I agree heavily that there's a need. I would like us to expand our thought process and not limit ourselves to thinking that we need to hire one person for a position and think about bidding out to a firm. Because I think when you hire one person, when you have this many different areas that you need addressed, they have skill sets that might not always match everything that you need. Whereas if you bring in a firm, they're gonna have a team of people who have different expertise, kind of like how we work with our attorneys. They have different areas. So I really hope that we'll keep that in mind too, because you can send out an RFP, they can come to us with bids, and so I think that's really important to think about.
Yeah, I think the whole concept, I mean, like Mr. Latch said, and others that, you know, as we spread communication around a bunch of people in the district, everyone can concentrate on their job description and not doing other things. I know Steve would be sad to give up news and notes on Mondays.
Yeah, I think he's willing though, I think he's willing, yeah.
That'd be a highlight.
Other feedback?
I think having constant and regular communication is an important thing for the community to see what are we doing, and having to be out on a regular basis and consistent and really a professional image out there.
And I don't know, I mean, to ping on Karen's idea of a firm, maybe if you hired, I don't know, 2 part-time people so that you could, you know, get a little more synergy out of a couple people that do, you know, kind of a firm kind of thing, each has a different skill set or something like that.
I just think one person, they would be spread too thin, first of all, and B, they may not have the, you know, expertise in crisis management. They may be great in social media, they may be great in doing your news and notes and things like that, but when it comes down to emergencies or whatever, you want someone who's got a completely different skill set, and I think that's something we need to keep in mind. When you have a firm, you kind of have a whole package and they get to know every aspect. And so.
I think it'd certainly be worth bidding it out, hearing what a firm would have to say on the, you know, especially those that work with other districts. They can come in, know what they're doing right away, and have a team accessible. It's worth exploring.
Well, I think there's even parts of it, especially when there's a crisis or something, that it's important that it's our district maybe getting that information. Maybe we need to split this whole thing up. You know, they want to see the superintendent or the assistant superintendent when it comes to getting the information out for emergencies or whatever. The other things, the marketing, you know, maybe there is another way to go. Maybe we have people right here. I don't know what we have on staff either. And I know we're cutting everybody a little thin with the administrative team, but.
Yeah, you can look at a blend piece. So getting feedback, kind of look at some RFP scenarios, look at what's out there, kind of start continuing. I'm gathering job descriptions and job postings from various districts to try and get a sense of, okay, what is out there related to, you know, these positions. And you know, I'm trying to look from a cost standpoint, and I will tell you those positions, they run the gamut in terms of what they pay, so we can kind of put some pieces together and we'll continue to proceed.
Do we have, I mean, like maybe January kind of?
I would prefer before that.
Before that,
you
well,
know.
yeah.
But that being said, I think it's important for us, yes, to do our due diligence, and I think because of the nature of this position and the impact it can have, really throughout the district and at the board table, even we need to make sure that we're kind of comfortable with where this falls. So I think I think there's maybe even a blend or some version of it is what I'm hearing a little bit about.
Yeah, I think an RFP would be a good way to start. That way we could pick their brains on what we might need, and then, you know, craft some job description out of that if we want to go the hiring route. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thanks. Consent agenda. Could I have a motion to authorize the following items as part of the consent agenda? A, approval of the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of July 12, 2016. B, approval of payment of the general funds accounts payable of August 9th, 2016, in the amount of $915,217.36. C, receive and file the August Curriculum, Finance, and Human Resources Report. D, approval of payment of bond fund accounts payable of August 9th, 2016, in the amount of $4,780,953.18. E, approval of the early graduation request is submitted by Superintendent Grade. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next agenda will be
We will be celebrating the successful start to the school year, and we'll be talking about the adequacy study.
I will be hoping Delta's on time because I will be flying home that day, so I will be absent next time. We'll probably have committees.
We'll have potentially committee report, we talked about a policy meeting, there will be bond.
Bond updates. This is the second opportunity for the public to make comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, our next meeting will be September 13th, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. at Liberty School Media Center. Can I have a motion to adjourn the regular Board of Education meeting of August 9th, 2016 at 7:35 p.m.?
So moved.
Support?
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.